everyone. I actually got tagged in a booktube tag by the beautiful Siani from Siani Reads. She and I have connected over booktube stuff, which I am so grateful for, and I adore her and her calmness, and I'm just so thank you for tagging me. I will leave her channel below for those of you who haven't seen it. For those of you who haven't been watching my reading vlogs, I am in packing hell right now. We are moving house. So all of my books, I'm looking over there, they're in a box right in front of me. So I don't have them to show you, but I'll have to do some inserts. But I wanted to do this tag anyway, because I was just so excited to be tagged in something. So sad, I know. So this is the art movement tag. I think that's what it's called. And I'm not a follower of artists at all. I love going to galleries, but I was really glad that there was some explanations around each of these questions in this tag. So anyway, let's just start and we will see how we go. So the first question is Baroque. Name an extravagant book character or a character who lives an extravagant life. Now for this one, I decided to pick, what was her name? I've written it down. Gillian Frisk from The Standing Chandelier, which is a novella written by Lionel Shriver. She's not extravagant or over the top, but I loved her and she stayed with me because she just didn't give a shit what people thought. And she was an artist who wanted to just follow her art, and she didn't live a normal life according to what everybody thought she should. And I just loved the way that she didn't care, even when she got called out on it by people who were stuffy and boring. She just kind of shrugged her shoulders and moved on. And so it's not extravagance, it's just living outside of the box. And that character stuck with me a lot. Second question. Oh, my thing's gone, sorry. Okay, question number 2. Impressionism, a book that left a lasting impression on you, tell us why. So I'm not going to rabbit on about a book about trees, don't worry. And for those of you that have seen my reading vlogs as well, this is going to come as a surprise because I've been rabbiting on about how short stories don't work for me. But I'm going to name a short story collection here. I recently read Common People by an Australian author called Tony Birch, and I think it's 12 stories or something, but it just explains the situation of normal people living life in Australia, whether they be in the farm or in the city. And the perspectives it was taken from was very cool. I was lucky enough to watch him speak at the Brisbane Writers Festival, and he is an Indigenous man, yet in the stories, only some of them you realise that they're being written from an Indigenous point of view. So I thought that was really cool how he didn't bring culture into it and just talked about common people's stories. Yeah, and it stayed with me. A few of those stories I even still remember, which is big for me because I don't remember books very well. But yeah, I would really recommend that short story collection if short stories is something you're into. Number 3, Expressionism, a book with a very personal and specific, possibly unique outlook on the world. What did I write down? Birds, Art, Life, Death. Oh, who's that by? I need to look that up. Oh no, my internet's not going to work. Yeah, it's not working. So Birds, Art, Life, Death is a non-fiction book. It's about a woman who follows around an artist, I think it's in Toronto, or is a musician. I really should have looked this up. And she follows him around. He's studying the birds in the city and how nature is popping up in Toronto. And through that comes some perspectives on life and perspectives on how to live. And the woman who's writing the book, she is using that and reflecting on her own life, where she lives I think she's a writer, and she lives a very normal life with children and a husband and all that sort of stuff. It was very personal because it was a memoir, I guess, but also just the way that she translated what this musician said to her about his nature studies and how she translated that into reflections on her own life. And then there was me, so like a third person looking at how she was reflecting and what he was initially saying, and then applying it to my own life. I liked that process of working through those thoughts with them both. Yeah, so I think that's why that one cropped up when that question came around. Okay, number 4, Surrealism. A book that puts a spin on the reality of our living. A sci-fi book you would recommend. Sci-fi and I we're not friends. I think Siani said that she entertained reading sci-fi for a short while, but it didn't last, and I laughed at that because that's the same with me. I picked up a book called Terra Nullius by Clare G. Coleman, thinking it was another perspective from an Indigenous point of view on white settlement in Australia, which is something that I'm seriously interested in reading about and knowing about. But it turned into this kind of part dystopian, futuristic setting novel, which I wasn't prepared for. And as soon as that came up on the page, I kind of went, it really shook me. But I persisted, which I'm so glad I did, because it's such a great book. I really enjoyed it, and it would be the closest to dystopian or sci-fi that I've ever read. And it's really tame. Number 5, Pointillism, a book where different narratives make the bigger picture. What did I write down? Oh, The Life to Come by Michelle de Krester. This is from 4 perspectives, I think. And it's sort of interconnected story. So there's one central character, I think her name's Pippa, and she's an Australian writer. And then I've written them all down here. Celeste lives in Paris. Ash is from Sri Lanka that lives in Australia, and so is Christabel. And there's sort of a common character. I think Pippa weaves her way through all of the short stories, but it's a look at trying to set yourself up, being in your early 20s, I guess, or even later when you're first married, and they all say you've got your life in front of you, and these people trying to navigate that with their different backgrounds, with their different experiences. Some have emigrated. It's a really well done book. I really enjoyed it. Number 6 is Pop Art, a book that criticises consumerism in some way or makes you look critically at current times. And I have that one here. Arcadia by Groff. I just finished this book. This is a story about a commune and a little boy called Bit. And in this commune, they are pretty much rejecting society. It was set up in the 60s in America somewhere where it was cold. New York maybe. And it skips ahead. Bit's a little boy when we first start out with the book, and we end with him having a child of his own. And it talks about how the commune was set up. It talks about how the commune goes down. It talks about how Bit moves into society, and then how he eventually is drawn back to the commune. So it's about another way of living, and I loved it. I loved it. I gave it 4 stars, but I really wanted more information. Like it's so beautifully written. Groff is a fantastic writer, but I found that jumping ahead so far left me wanting to know more, which, according to my buddy Joe, who I read this with, says that's the sign of good writing, and I totally understand why she says that. But I still want to know more. So, that's my answer for, what was that, question 6? Dadaism? Number 7 is a weird book that puts a spin on the novel format. What did I write down? Oh, Flames. I'm going to bat on about Flames again. My favourite book of this year so far. This puts a spin on normal novel writing. Maybe I just wanted to include Flames and I stuck it in here. I guess it was a weird book. I guess the first page, or the first part of the book, few pages, starts with a woman going up in flames. And then it just rolls on from there. It's all about the land of Tasmania, which is just untouched and gorgeous. And so much weirdness pops up. It's a very imaginative, amazing book. I would highly recommend it. And number 8 is performance art, a book that would make a great movie or your favourite play. What did I write? Oh, I wrote down Before I Let You Go by Kelly Rimmer, which is a terribly sad book. It's about two sisters, one who is an addict, a heroin addict, and falls pregnant. And she lives somewhere in America where you go to jail if that occurs. And so her sister takes her baby, and her sister takes her baby for her. It's written from both of their perspectives, so there's a chapter each. It's incredibly sad. The reason I think it should be a movie is because more people need to hear this message. It just tugs on my mama heartstrings unbelievably, and totally made me change my attitude to people with addictions having children. Obviously it's not something that's often in my world, so I just formed a completely uninformed attitude towards it, but this book made me challenge that, and I really think that more people should be challenged by it. I also wrote down Murder at the Brightwell, which I have here, by Ashley Weaver. I loved this book. It's just a murder mystery set in the 1930s or something like that, but it's so much fun, and the characters are really vibrant. The detective girl lady is Amory Ames, and she's in this really weird marriage with the man who just takes off and is a bit of a socialite. But there's so much love between them. There's so much witty banter. There's lots of twists and turns in the plot. The other characters, they go away to a motel and someone dies, and then they can't leave this hotel. And so they're all stuck there, enduring each other's company, wondering who the murderer is. And those characters are really funny and fun. So yeah, that would be a fun movie. There's bonus questions, but a fiction book that discusses or features art in some way. Oh, The Museum of Modern Love. That does. Is that by Heather Rose? This was a sad book too. This was about, I've forgotten her name, Maria. Oh, I'll have to put it in the notes below. Oh. So this artist sets up an art display where she just sits there, and people line up to sit across the table from her. And she does this for 3 months or something like that. She doesn't eat, drink, go to the toilet. She sits there for 12 hours a day or something like that, and then she stands up and leaves. And all of these people line up, they sit across from her, and some people have all of these different reactions. And this man, whose wife is very ill and decided to leave him so he wouldn't have to endure his illness. So he's terribly lonely, and he's made some pretty poor decisions, let's be honest. He goes to this exhibition every single day because he's just fascinated by it. And it's a story of, people that he knows that sits across from this woman. It's the story of her art. I wish I could remember her name. Sorry. But yeah, that's a great book. I enjoyed that. And then, who's your favourite artist or your favourite painting? Oh, this one? Hey! This painting was given to me by a friend. His name is Michael Bond. I'll leave a link to his art below. His art is now, this is a very early piece, so I can say I had one of the first Michael Bond paintings. But now he's got beautifully abstract art, which I'm not really into, but his colour schemes and his work really provokes me. Some of them make me really emotional. So yeah, Michael Bond, here we go. That's good. I'm also especially drawn to any Indigenous artwork. I think the way that they tell a story through their painting and sort of the aerial views of where the water is and the fires and the hunting trails and things like that, when I get that explained to me, when I'm very lucky enough to have that explained to me, that fascinates me and I love it. But I don't know any artist names. I can't even remember the artist's name who I read a book about, so we're in trouble. Anyway, that's it. That's my messy art movement tag. Maybe this is why people don't tag me in things. I think I can see a reason. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. I'll put all of the stuff below. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next fumbling book tag. Bye.